Lesser is going to be leading us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the prayer.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity that you've given us to serve our communities and serve here at PeADD. Lord, we thank you for blessing this organization with many different resources that we've been struggling with over the past years. Lord, you have given us this opportunity. We want to make sure that we're giving you the glory where you need it. And Lord, we just ask that you continue to bless this organization and every arm that it serves in. And as the business is conducted today, let it be done in your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. You have in your packets a copy of the minutes from both June and July. I'll entertain a motion to approve both. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposition like sign. Hearing none, minutes are approved. Next item, financial report. Speed on up here.
You all have in your packet the financial report. Personnel is at 7.06%. Travel is at 3.86%. And the total operating expenses at 3.18%. We should be at 8.33%. We're well under budget currently. Naturally, this is for the first month of the year. So as we continue to move into the next couple of months, you'll see that change. If you have any questions at all, the answers can be found on the front row right over here in the corner. Do I have any questions?
Any questions? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financial report. I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposition like sign. Hearing none, financial report is approved. Next item, federal and state reports. We'll start with Ms. Morgan Alvey from Senator McConnell's office. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be back here. I hate to say that I missed the annual dinner. That was the first time in my 7.5 years, and I regretted that, but we had a staff meeting in DC, and then I missed last month. I was on vacation, so I'm really glad to be back with you all. I would note that I know that since we've met, that major disaster declaration stemming from the Memorial Day weekend storms has been granted by the president. I believe that all of our counties in here were included for at least public assistance and then several for individual assistance as well. I know most of you, unfortunately, are old pros at this FEMA process by now, but as always, if there's anything on the FEMA side that we can be of assistance with, please don't hesitate to reach out. We have a FEMA staffer, Dominic Travis, in our DC office, who's fantastic and is always happy to chat with you all. And then finally, I would just note any federal grant applications that you all have, please, as always, feel free to share those with me and would be happy to check and see if we can do a support letter for any of those projects. As always, if there's anything our office can be of assistance with, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you. No, it's still, I'll just say what that is. So in the Senate's version of the Water Resources Development Act, the senator was able to secure a provision in that bill that would direct the Army Corps to do a study of the erosion issue along the lower Cumberland River that would touch Lyon, Crittenden, and Livingston counties. And that's I'll look at that. I don't think there's been any further action since the committee. But yes, I'd be happy to keep you updated on that as it progresses through, as everyone knows, one version will pass the Senate, one version will pass the House, and then at some point they'll have to reconcile those differences. But thank you for reminding me of that.
All right. Thank you, Morgan. We also have Miss Martha Jane and Alex from the governor's office. Who's the lucky one today? Alex, come on up.
Martha Jane specifically waits till 12:03 before she gets here. So then they know I'm I'm stuck, so I'm a little more timely. But anyway, good to see everybody. Good afternoon, and great to be back with you all today. Adding on a little bit to what Morgan said, disaster unemployment assistance has also been approved for those counties impacted by the Memorial Day storm. So something to keep in mind if you have anyone who might need that assistance. Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman was in the Penny Ryle region this month in Trigg County to cut the ribbon on the new Career Technical Education Center there. And then she was also in Caldwell County Judge for a great event honoring Chief Deputy Jody Cash with the new highway marker there. So thank you all for being a part of those events. I know Lieutenant Governor Coleman had a great day. And we wanted to thank everybody who came out to the Governor's Local Issues Conference last year. Had a great turnout from the Penny Ryle region yet again, and thank you all so much for that. The conference would not be the same without all of you all. We had over 700 folks attend, so another great crowd. And again, thank you all for making it a great conference. That's all I have. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, sir. And I think Mayor Cotton has an audio-visual presentation from our conference last week, but I think that's saved for the end of the meeting. Optional if you want to stay for that. All right, moving on to staff reports, we have Miss Amy Frogue.
All right, good afternoon. Alex, I'm a little shorter than you are. While Melissa's getting that this presentation up, I want to take just a few minutes this afternoon to introduce you all to a new funding source through the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, KIA, called the W Waters Program. Hopefully you have received some information about this already. But if you have not, we still got about 3 weeks to get these applications in for this program. All right. This program was a new program, again, created by House Bill 563 during this last session of the General Assembly to provide an additional source of funding for our water and wastewater systems outside of those that we have traditionally accessed in the past. This program, again, will be administered by the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, and they will do the credit analysis for these applications that come in. And then from that point, they will score and rank these applications and then send them on to the General Assembly in the spring of 2025 for their final decision. This program was created with a total of $150 million that's available across the 2 fiscal years of 2025 and 26, with $75 million available in each of those fiscal years. So all assistance types will be determined through that KIA credit analysis, but assistance can come to your water and wastewater systems in the form of grants, loans, no interest loans, and also forgivable loans. The loan term and repayment will be structured to meet the payment ability of the system. So if your system does have the ability to pay back some of those funds, that will likely be required instead of it being an automatic grant opportunity. These financing proceeds can be used for capital and non-capital expenditures, and I'll have an example of some of those non-capital expenditures in a few slides. And then also for any systems that are under an agreed order or are in an area that's under an emergency declaration, like Crittenden County and Marion, would be eligible to receive or apply for this funding. So just an example of some of the rate structures that they're looking at for communities that have a median household income above the state's MHI. The standard rate will be 1.75%, which is still a very low rate in comparison to other funding sources that are available to these systems. The non-standard rate will be 0.75%. For those communities with an MHI between 80 and 100% of the state's MHI. That rate will also be given to projects that address any non-compliance or regionalization efforts. And then the non-standard rate will be a repayment at 0% for those communities below 80% of the state's MHI. And what we're finding in our research, there are a couple of state MHI numbers out there, but in conversations with KIA staff during the local issues conference, it looks like we're going to be using an MHI of 55,000. So that's kind of the goal we're shooting at here in determining your eligibility. Again, this program was designed primarily as a loan program, and we have seen that that is deterring some of our systems from applying, but I would still encourage you to apply if you have those water and wastewater projects. It's hard to get a loan at 0% these days, so this is a pretty good opportunity. As those loans are repaid, this program is designed to create a state revolving loan fund program for infrastructure projects that doesn't necessarily have those same strings attached that the state revolving loan fund has along with it. Those federal requirements are sort of laxed on this program. So again, in order to be eligible, you must meet at least one of these criteria. Your MHI is below the state MHI. Your user rate affordability is greater than 1% of the annual MHI. You haven't had an audit in at least one of the last 3 years, or you've had negative income in any of the last 2 of 5 years. If you have a debt service coverage ratio of less than 1.1 in any of the 3 previous 5 years, your accounts payable turnover ratio is less than 1. Your days sales and accounts receivable ratio is greater than 45 days. Or if you have a notice of violation or agreed order within the past year. And then also, this may apply to some if your water loss percentage is greater than 30%. Other factors that KIA is going to look at are any projects that address regionalization, consolidation, or partnerships among systems. Any requested amount that will allow a system to fully fund or complete a project to resolve pending issues. So for instance, if you have some CDBG funding that has been awarded and you haven't been able to secure a match for that, this may be an opportunity to apply for that match. Or a project that demonstrates a high level of community or regional impact. So for each of these criteria with your application, each criteria will receive 1 point. And if you meet, obviously, multiple criterias, you will rank higher in that scoring process. So once they have all the applications in, projects will be scored according to this criteria and then ranked, and then that information will be sent on to the General Assembly in January. So capital projects obviously are eligible under this program, but this program also opens it up for some non-capital projects. And up here are just a few examples of some of those activities that you can apply for. But I particularly want to bring your attention to correcting financial deficiencies if you have systems that have not completed audits. Or if they're behind on their audits, or if you're a municipal run utility that's behind on audits, you can apply for some funding to get those audits up to date, which is very important if you're receiving state and federal funds. It also provides an avenue for some debt refinance or relief, as well as some possible money to pay fines and penalties from violations that you may have had. So just a quick timeline. Again, this opened up back about mid-month last month and will run through August the 30th. So we've got about 3 weeks left in this application cycle. KIA, for those projects that are submitting under an emergency declaration, KIA will review those immediately and will begin taking those to their board in September, October, and November. They do have the authority to make decisions on those that fall under an emergency declaration before the other projects go to the General Assembly. December 1 is the target date for all of these projects to be scored and ranked to get that list to the General Assembly. And then, of course, when they go into session in January through March, they will be looking at that list of projects and select which projects will receive funding. They will also have the liberty of determining which projects receive if it's all loan or if it's a grant loan mix, or what that project funding might look like. And then we're anticipating in April 2025 letters of approval and your financing that you're offered for these projects. So again, if you are interested in these projects, if you have a construction project that does require the creation of a project profile, so if you have projects that do not already have a project profile, I would encourage you to get with us probably in the next week or so we can get that created for you. Those non-capital, non-construction projects do not require approval by the Water Management Council, so we don't have to have a profile on those. But these aren't complicated applications, but they do require quite a bit of information gathering in the form of attachments. So the quicker we can get started on these, the better. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have Ms. Jill Collins with an update on Area Agency on Aging and Independent Living.
Good afternoon. I have just a few updates I'm going to provide, and then I'm going to ask a staff member to come up and finish out our report for the department. I do want to introduce a new board report that is in your packet that will, you'll find it in your packet moving forward. And this is a report that gives you a little bit more detail on the monthly services and activities of the Area Agency on Aging. That includes training, services delivered, some client numbers, and community involvement. You can see that it's broken down by county and broken down by some other specific areas of information. And so that will be available to you moving forward in your packet. This is information that is generally provided on a quarterly basis during our Advisory Council on Aging meetings. And upon Jason's suggestion, we have decided to include this in the board packet so that you all will have that level of detail on a monthly basis as well. I would like to remind everyone on August 21st, next week, is our official kickoff for our suicide prevention grant. That will be held here at the PeADD office, and lunch will be served. That is going to be sponsored by AARP Kentucky. I think several of you have already reached out to confirm your attendance, and if you have any questions on that, you can let me know this afternoon. We will also be hosting our first advisory council meeting for the new fiscal year on September 11th with our new chairman, Mayor Arthur Green, leading us in that meeting. So if you're interested in attending that, you can let me know as well. We have a new staff member that started with us last week that I would like to introduce, and that is Miss Kayla Malaskis. Kayla, if you would stand. Kayla was with us before for a few years, and she left us for a period of time, and now she is back, and she's serving us as a case manager in our Medicaid Home and Community-Based Waiver Program. So welcome back, Kayla. We always like when they decide to come back. So during fiscal year 24, the Area Agency on Aging spent a lot of time and had a lot of focus on program expansion. We had major expansion with our veteran-directed care program. We had a lot of expansion in our nutrition program and some other services that we offered. And so fiscal year 25 is going to look a little different in that when we have that kind of expansion and growth, we have to have some technology upgrades to support that service delivery system. And so we're going to see quite a bit of technology upgrades all across our programs on our Older Americans Act side, as well as on our Medicaid waiver side. But I'm going to introduce Amanda Stokes. Amanda is our Assistant AAA Director, and she also serves as our data administrator for our state data system that's getting ready to make a major transition. And she's going to talk us through what that looks like and then close out the report for the Area Agency on Aging this afternoon. And if you all have any questions, feel free to let myself or Amanda know at the end of the meeting. So thank you.
Good afternoon. All right, we'll give Melissa just a minute. So as Jill said, we do have some major technology upgrades that we're about to approach, and we're very excited about those upgrades. With our data system, the state has required us to have a use of their state data system for the last several years. We've managed with that system, but there have been some issues, and so we're excited to notify you all that the Department for Aging and Independent Living has decided to make the transition to a new state reporting system. It's called MonaMe, and we'll be transitioning to that system as of September the 30th. With that, we're going to start training later this month at the end of August, and that training will go all the way through early November. During that time frame, not only will our staff have access to a sandbox data system to go in and practice in, but as well as our provider staff. So our senior center coordinators will be able to go in and practice in that system as well. So the platform is HIPAA compliant, it's cloud-based, it's tablet friendly. It will be a much more user-friendly version for a state reporting system that we'll be able to go in and use. It will impact our state programs as well as our older Americans Act program for our older adults. Again, this will impact our staff as well as senior center staff and the staff at Kentucky Legal Aid that provide our legal services for our seniors as well. The next upgrade that I'm going to talk about is called My Senior Center, and it's a new form of technology that we're about to start with. We actually have some initial training scheduled later this week. It will be available in all 9 of our senior centers, and this technology will allow us to get away from traditional sign-in sheets. Those can be cumbersome for some of our seniors, as well as difficult to read signatures on when you're trying to go back in and use those to enter in data for who has participated that day. So this system will use new technology for us. It'll be the key tags. So be able to put it on your keychain. The barcode will be linked to each individual. They can come into the senior centers, and the senior centers will actually have little scanners. They can come in, sign in, and be able to scan that. That signs them in for that day, and they don't have to do the traditional sign-in sheets. So 7 of our senior centers will have the handheld scanners that they'll be using, and 2 of our senior centers, the Trigg County Senior Center and the Christian County Senior Center, will actually have a computer monitor kiosk that they're able to come into. Touch screen, the clients can use the key tag to sign in that day, and they can sign in for various activities as well as congregate meals. The primary focus with this initially, though, will be for congregate meal sign-in. So with that, we'll take that data at the end of each month and be able to upload into our new data reporting system. So this will allow for much more effective and efficient way of capturing all the units, and it'll cut out some of the errors that we have experienced in the past with that manual data entry for those services. Another good feature to this is some of the mass messaging that it will allow us to do. So last week, we hosted all 9 senior centers here in our office to be able to come in and do some disaster preparedness training for a new action plan. And this is a requirement for the Department for Aging and Independent Living. One of the focuses of that program is effective and efficient communication. So traditionally, when we have had a senior center that's had to be closed for some reason, they might post on social media or reach out to a local radio station to let them know, but a lot of it involves a senior center staff member manually calling all of the clients to let them know that due to whatever circumstance, the senior center will not be open that day. And so with this system, you can go in and pre-record a message, and at one click, it will call all of the clients and play that recorded message for them. So it will be much more efficient and effective with letting them know about closures or weather-related events, things like that. So that will be a really nice feature, and it will help better us in those action plans for emergency preparedness. But are there any other questions about those systems? All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we'll have Ms. Sheila Clark with the West Kentucky Workforce Board.
Thank you very much. This afternoon, I have a short list, but I'll start out by telling you that the tornado grant that we have in place goes through December. But because of what some of the feedback has been and that the state is prepared to solicit for the Department of Labor for an additional grant, we are applying for a small amount of funds for a national emergency disaster grant that would include the May tornado and wind storms there. Sometimes it may take 2 or 3 months before we see the impact of someone trying to overcome a disaster like that. So we will have that available in the next few months, and we'll let you all know when that is available, and it can be accessed through our career centers. We're also looking at workforce reauthorization still being out there in everybody's top 10 list. We have the House that's already passed a version, and we have the Senate that has a draft out there. But with both of that actions, we're seeing individual bills coming from the Senate and from the House and looking at that. And we think that there will still be interest in that in the next few months, and that by the end of the year, if not sooner, we might have new legislation there. There is a KWIB, a Kentucky Workforce Investment Board, Innovation Board meeting in Frankfort this week on Thursday, and Kim Humphreys represents us on that state board. And if you're interested in getting online or attending that, let me know and I'll give you the information. Next month, we're going to give you a little more information about our youth programs and our new youth funding that we thank the legislators for. And we're interested in reporting to you on that. Online today, Sherlon Jeter is our new employment specialist for McCracken County Drug Court. And she's working with those individuals and doing some employment training activities for them. And we appreciate her being with us. And then I'm going to stop talking for just a minute and let Tom Scholler tell you about upcoming events and activities, including in your packet. There is one on Fort Campbell, the job fair. Tom?
Thank you, Ms. Sheila. Just want to bring you up to date on some hiring events and job fairs that have been held or will be held in near future. First of all, just here recently, we've worked with 2 of the local companies that are coming into Hopkinsville, Toyota, Bashuku, and Ascend Elements, which you've heard a lot about over the past year or so. We held hiring events at Hopkinsville Community College with them, and I can't thank Hopkinsville Community College enough for being a great partner of ours and allowing us to use their facilities and hosting these events. But the one we held recently for Ascend Elements just a couple of weeks ago had 101 people come and register. I mean, those are people that registered. And I talked to Tina, Ascend's HR manager, just the other day on Friday, and they have completed a lot of interviews face-to-face, follow-up interviews face-to-face, and preparing to make job offers this week and next week to a lot of those individuals who are there. So Ascend is ramping up, and so is Toyota Bashuku. Toyota Bashuku will be open. They're tentatively hoping to open that facility late this year or first of next year. And then Ascend Elements will be sometime in 2025, depending on construction and equipment and so on and so forth. Again, talking with both those companies just last week, we have dates to be determined by them of the next hiring events for them. Ascend Elements will probably be in September, towards the end of September. Toyota Bashuku will probably follow that a little bit later on, but stay tuned for that. I did want to mention, speaking of hiring events, the Career Center, Breathitt Career Center here in Hopkinsville and Madisonville that John Nett, and then Middlebury County has a Career Center. Those facilities are available for companies in your area or businesses in your area. If you have businesses that are looking for a place to have a hiring event and they cannot do it at their facility, they can use our facilities at no charge. So remember that and refer people to them. If you have a question, you can contact me here and I can get you contact with the appropriate people at those facilities. Sheila wanted me to mention, oh, well, first of all, before I do that, speaking of job postings and openings, if you have a company or a business in your area that has several job openings or even just one, send that information, have them send that information to me, and we'll get that posted on our social media. Again, there's no charge for that to promote that. We have a lot of companies that take advantage of that, and we try to assist all of them if we can and helping them find the individuals they need to staff their facilities. And then last but not least, in your packet, there's a hiring job, a brochure or flyer for a fall job fair. This is the quarterly one that's held at Fort Campbell through Transition Assistance Program, TAP program. It's a huge event. It's a 2-day event. There's several regional companies in this region, and then a lot of state and national companies that comes to this event. But remember, there's 400 to 500 individuals monthly that leave Fort Campbell that transition out. It doesn't count their spouses and or family members. So it's a wealth of people that can be brought into this region and to go to work. And a lot of those individuals want to stay in this region. Fort Campbell's the #1 military installation in the United States as far as retention of their people that leave the base, that locate back in the area. So keep that in mind if you have businesses or industries that are looking for trained and highly technical people that are looking for jobs. And keep that in mind. If you have a question, Derek Porter, raise your hand. Derek is our Veterans Transition Liaison. He's at Fort Campbell 2 or 3 days a week. He's here a couple days a week. If you have a question about Fort Campbell as far as assistance and getting on post, or if your companies have information that you want him to get to the appropriate people at Fort Campbell, get in contact with Derek or myself and we'll get it down there. Subject to any questions, that completes what I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to new business, we have no ethics issues to report, so we'll go straight to our guest speaker. We're pleased to have representatives from Operation Unite joining us virtually today. Operation Unite primarily serves 33 counties in southern and eastern Kentucky and provides a comprehensive approach to combating substance abuse. We'll turn it over now to Tom Vicini, President and CEO of Operation Unite.
Good afternoon. We're really honored to be able to speak with you today about our organization in southern and eastern Kentucky. And our mission as an organization, as a nonprofit, is to create hope and change the culture. We've been at it for 21 years now. And I'm going to have Dale Morton, our communication director, will be speaking first for us, talking about our history and how we got started. I know we just have about 20 or 30 minutes, so we'll try to summarize everything because we could probably talk for several hours about the things that we've accomplished over the years. But we have about 35 or 40 employees serving 33 counties. So we depend heavily on volunteers that we've created relationships with in these counties through community coalitions, which are basically a cross section of the entire county. You'll have people from every walk of life as part of these community coalitions. We also have created numerous partnerships that help us be effective and is really a source of our strength in our area. We address the substance use problem through a three-pronged approach. First of all, we have law enforcement, and that's basically we have 3 detectives, task force officers that work with local DEA, and we have one law enforcement manager who handles medication disposals, as well as we monitor a tip line, a statewide tip line for drug trafficking. He is also a liaison with other agencies such as Kentucky State Police and local law enforcement agencies. He assists with investigation. We provide resources for investigations that can possibly lead to a federal case. So we're going after the big drug dealers rather than the street level at this particular time. My staff that I have with me today is Dale Morton. He is our communications director. We have Jamie Gillum, who monitors and directs our statewide call center.
And we have Courtney Maynard, who is our newly appointed education director, coming from our prevention staff. So this time I'm going to turn it over to Dale and let him tell you about our history and how we've got to the point where we are today.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to try to pack an hour's worth of information into 5 minutes. What I want to stress is that as you hear some of the dates and the milestones of Unite, is that it took a champion in our Congressman Hal Rogers to be able to spur the start of and continue the efforts that we have today. Every good sustainable program needs somebody to champion their cause. And that's exactly what happened here. When in January and February of 2003, the Lexington Herald-Leader newspaper did a series of stories that essentially called Eastern Kentucky the painkiller capital of the United States because of the OxyContin problem that we were seeing in our region. And the congressman did not believe it, did a little bit of research, and within 2 months incorporated Operation Unite. And then 2 weeks after the incorporation was accomplished in April of 2003, he had been able to secure an $8 million omnibus funding bill through the Byrne Grant to fund the efforts of Operation Unite. So we had not only a champion, but we had a pool of cash to be able to implement programs from the beginning. And it started off with a kickoff celebration in November of that year. And as Tom said, we're now in our 21st year. By January of 2004, so less than a year, we had 3 regional drug task forces put together across the 5th congressional district. At the time wasn't 33 counties, but it was close. And every county within that service area had signed an interlocal agreement for our detectives to be able to work across the county and municipal lines. And that was key to us being able to have early successes in the law enforcement investigations. We had a drug task force of 34 people at the beginning, which was unheard of. By February, the congressman started to gather stakeholders within each one of our counties. He called town hall meetings and basically would not let them leave without a plan to create a coalition within that county to address the issue. So by the end of by the end of May, we had our first coalitions do marches and rallies starting across our district. Drew thousands of people, very strong faith-based support for the early efforts of the coalitions. By early 2004, we had started a toll-free drug tip line, which the area didn't have before. We had partnered with the Administrative Office of the Courts to create and fund new drug court programs across our 5th Congressional District. Our task forces were doing some great work with investigations and doing drug roundups that weren't your typical drug roundups. When we would go out to arrest 20 or 30 people from investigations, we would have our coalitions there at the place where the people that were being arrested were taken and seeing what assistance we could provide to the families or to the individual in support services while they're incarcerated. We had launched what's called House Pals at the very beginning. It was the formation of our Unite Club efforts to be able to get into the school systems. And in early 2005, we had created a toll-free treatment call line. And in 2005, Unite launched a treatment voucher program, which was the first time in the nation that somebody was paying for treatment. We also ran 2 grants through Unite to create 2 inpatient residential treatment facilities within the 5th Congressional District. So within the first year and a half, we were having tremendous amount of success. Um, in 2006, I mentioned our Unite clubs. They were starting to go really strong in the school system. And so the congressman called all of these schools together for a Uniting Students to Serve conference. And during that time, when he met with the leaders of these school systems, and just kind of a meet and greet handshake type of thing, that turned out to be an hour-long in-depth conversation where the congressman realized that more important than arresting people, more important than providing treatment for people, was the need for a focus on youth prevention. And that's really where the current mission of Unite got its start, was in 2006. In 2007, we teamed up with the Eastern Kentucky University's AmeriCorps program to offer some in-school programming. That was in the spring of 2007. And the following year, we paid to help coordinate drug education within the schools through the AmeriCorps program. But in the following school year, 2008, 2009, that's when we launched our own AmeriCorps program. And it has blossomed into 62 members this past school year in the schools. We were the first AmeriCorps program in the nation to incorporate drug education as a required teaching element for our AmeriCorps members. They are also required to be sponsors or co-sponsors of Unite clubs in the schools. They attend coalition meetings to bring that perspective into the local coalition efforts. And something I didn't say about our coalitions, all of our coalitions are nonprofits, so they can apply for their own grants and things, in addition to funding that Unite provides twice a year on an action plan approval basis. Not everything is approved, but we do have some funding that we can funnel to them for local projects that meet local needs. In 2007, our coalition model was so strong that we were recognized by President George W. Bush at the White House for the model that we were setting across the nation. In 2009, our law enforcement efforts didn't wane. We were doing a lot of investigations that went well beyond the 5th Congressional District. You may have heard of a drug roundup in 2009 called Flamingo Road. That was the largest drug roundup of its kind at the time. 518 warrants were issued that day. Most of those were Unite and Kentucky State Police investigations that went all the way to the Florida pipeline where drugs were being bought and brought back into this area. In 2012, the congressman knew that Unite had good programs and was doing good things, but because of his position in DC, he also knew that there were other agencies and organizations across the country that were doing equally good work. And he knew that the federal agencies were working on the issue of overdose, working on the issue of anything to do with substance misuse. And so he had Unite start a national drug summit in 2012 that is now the largest of its kind in the country. We've had 5 presidents address the summit, and if you're interested, it's going to be held next year in Nashville, Tennessee, and you have until the end of September to get the biggest discount on your tickets. Continuing on, in 2017, one of the big highlights there was we piloted the Angel Initiative for the Kentucky State Police, which is now in all the Kentucky State Police posts across the state. It's also the year that Unite, because of what we had been doing with our treatment voucher program, opened the Kentucky Help statewide call center. it serves all residents of Kentucky. And just in the last fiscal year from 2023 to 24, in your 9 counties, the call centers fielded 258 calls for assistance for a substance use disorder. So it is something that is serving the needs of all Kentuckians. And Jamie may talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. In 2018, because of the work that we already had in place with our treatment voucher program, we began administering the Kentucky opioid response effort for the state. And that is something that all treatment facilities can take advantage of to get people the help that they may need. That's kind of the milestones. Basically, we had been funded primarily through earmarks for the first half of our existence. But when Congress cut out the earmarks, we managed to keep ours going for another 4 or 5 years, and we were actually the last organization in the United States to have a congressional earmark at the time. And so we became desperate and seeking assistance, and we went to the Kentucky General Assembly for funding assistance. And they provided some stopgap money. At the time, I think the initial funding came through the tobacco settlement funds. And the last few years, we've been funded through the appropriations bill. We have just under $3 million a year this current fiscal year. And we are able to, that pays generally for being able to have a staff. Most grants don't allow you to pay for staffing. So Kentucky enables us to have the core. And once we have these different things in place, we're able to leverage that roughly $3 million to more than $12 million this past fiscal year by programs and things that we bring into the state. And we don't just serve the 5th Congressional District. That's a misconception. We have taken our programs and shared that across the state. We helped different state agencies when they had the CASPER legislation and regulations. We went and provide training across the state. So we work with other organizations. That's where our success has been, is building collaborations that can be successful. And I'm missing something, and I guess I'm going to turn it over to Tom or whoever. I know I'm missing something on the funding I wanted to say, but thank you I know what it was. Thanks to the Kentucky Opioid Response, the Opioid Abatement Commission, we were able to actually begin a position that Courtney used to hold in expanding our prevention efforts into the schools. We're going to be able to have curriculum that goes K through 12 provided into our schools this coming school year on I don't know, 8 or 9 different subject areas that meet age appropriate standards. And because of the last grant that we just received starting in October, we're going to be expanding our coverage area beyond the 5th Congressional District into up to 10 more counties. So we're always looking to share what we know. We're looking for support for what we do, because we believe that Unite serves Kentucky, even though, we're started in the 5th Congressional District, and that's where most of our services currently are provided. Anything else, Tom?
No, I'll take over from here. Of course, I should have known giving the media man 5-minute time limit wouldn't work out too well, but you did well, Dale. Anyway, we consider this the most exciting time in our history right now. I'm not sure anybody envisioned us being around 21 years after Congressman Rogers created us back in 2003, but we have found a way to interact with communities and with schools and with the general population in a way that we're just very effective. Most of them, we have a small staff, but every one of those staff members believe in our mission. They don't last very long in this business if you don't believe in the mission. You have to be dedicated. You have to be passionate in sharing and interacting with people. You have to care about saving lives every day, and that's what we're all about. And we are really into it right now, and we're excited about getting across the state with some of our programming. Nobody does what Unite does. There's other people that do partly what we do, but nobody does it the way we do it. And we want to share that. We just think it's something that, I always say I live in Harlan County, which is far southeastern Kentucky. If I care about the kids in Harlan County enough to present them with programming that changes their life, I want to do the same thing in Bowling Green and Hopkinsville and Owensboro and everywhere else across the state. So we're excited about it. And in fact, we want to be the prevention arm for the entire state of Kentucky. That's my great desire. One thing that Dale didn't mention is we do receive $2.75 million from the state every year to keep us administratively sound, but we leverage that to about $12 million a year with other grants. So we are somewhere around $12 million a year organization. And we use all those funding sources to add new programming to what we're doing, such as the opioid abatement money, which is really helping us get out across the state. As I mentioned, law enforcement, we just have 4 officers now, and they don't actually work for us. We reimburse their agencies for their services, and we're more involved with big federal type crimes. In our treatment program, as Dale said, nobody was doing treatment but us. And we've seen the treatment field grow because of the things that we've done. So we have a voucher program that pays for long-term treatment. We also manage the core program that Dale mentioned, and we pay money for transitional living. Somebody comes out of treatment, we give them like $250 to get started in a sober living facility. We provide a lot of funding through our coalitions for aftercare support, such as NA and AA and Celebrate Recovery and other activities. Then our education department. We give $7,500 every 6 months to each of our 33 coalitions. They come up with plans that are selected for their specific community. They decide what they need to do in the prevention and education area. We fund those projects and give them $7,500 every 6 months. We also have evidence-based programming that we take to communities, to adults, and to schools. And Courtney will talk more about those in just a second. We sponsor all kinds of events. We just finished up 2 coalition symposiums where we brought our coalitions together in a celebration. We also do Camp Unite, we call it. We just recently did that. We had 120 middle school students that we kept for a month on a college campus so that we could create hope in their lives. Most of those kids come to us having never been out of their own communities. Some of them have never stayed away from home one night in their lives. And some come from very disturbing backgrounds where SUD is a big problem. And they come in scared and unsure of what's going to happen. And then at the end of the week, they're begging us to stay longer. And we had one group that sent us a letter asking if we could extend the camp 3 more weeks. Obviously, we couldn't, but they benefited from it that much. We do Shoot Hoops, Not Drugs basketball camps with former UK star Jared Polson. Just something we do. Hooked on Fishing, Not on Drugs. We sponsored the state archery tournament this year and the state bass fishing tournament. Just a lot of different things. We try to meet needs where they're at. There's a lot of different things going on. I'm just barely touching the surface of all the things we do. But one of the things I'm most proud of personally as president, and I've been president since October 1st, is creating a prevention department. One of the things that I've said over and over and over again is we're never going to solve this problem of SUD if we just attach it primarily through recovery and through law enforcement. Yes, we need both of those components. We absolutely need them. But if we're just putting money into recovery and not putting anything into prevention, we're never going, it's going to be a revolving door. We're just never going to get there. So our focus now is really attacking things from kindergarten through grade 12. We want to see something in every grade level across this state so that we can make inroads and we can change the way young people see the drug culture. We've got to do that. So we're hiring people. I'm hiring a lot of people in recovery. When they go into schools, they have a passion that you cannot duplicate because their hearts are in it and they've had the life experience of what drugs do to a family, and they are very effective in changing lives. So I'll let Courtney, excuse me, I've had a dry cough for a week. I'll let Courtney come on and talk about our prevention programming.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Tom mentioned, I was recently appointed our education director, actually just a very small amount over a month now. But previous to that, I was our prevention programs coordinator. And previous to that, with our statewide call center, which you'll hear Jamie speak on. So I've been with Unite about 7 years, but within our prevention programming around the last 2 years, and was able to help build our team, as Tom mentioned, for our prevention staff with opioid abatement funds. And what we really try to do with our prevention programming, first of all, as Tom mentioned, is we try to speak into the lives of these children. And that's why we wanted a dedicated prevention team, someone that these children regularly see within their school system, and are familiar with. So when they come to Camp Unite or they come to Shoot Hoops, the various programs that Tom mentioned that are after school or outside of school programs, they're going to see familiar faces, first of all, and they're going to have a positive impression of Unite because these individuals have been eating lunch with them or joining their Unite Club meetings. And then on the other hand, giving them prevention programming within the schools. And so last year when I began leading our prevention program, we wanted to look at getting into some lower grades. We were really strong in our middle school and high school programming. We do yearly an anti-vaping program and bring in the new products that are relevant to the adolescents and to everyone in that component. But we realized we needed to drop down into younger grades. So last year we were able to drop down to as low as 4th grade and speak with them about anti-vaping and different things at a very age-appropriate level. And then we were also able to we do an internet safety course, which talks to them about cyberbullying, which we also tie into substance misuse and refusal skills. Previously, last year, that was for 4th through 6th grade, and now we have adjusted and added programming for the internet safety from middle school to high school as well. All of our programs are built within Unite, most of our programs, I should say, and we coordinate with the University of Kentucky, who advises all of our programming and helps us set up the appropriate evaluations so we can get pre and post testing done to make sure that they are learning and that we're meeting the goals that we want to hit. Now, taking in to the kindergarten and up, we have decided to implement Botvan Life Skills Wise Owl programming in the upcoming school year to really meet the need for our kindergartners through 3rd graders. This was a scientific-based program that we researched on and really hits the notes at a very age-appropriate level. So like the first conversation you have with them is about healthy habits and what that looks like, whether it be your dietary needs, your friendships, things along those lines. And then the next component will move into medications, prescribed medications, and how you don't take medications that don't belong to you, that aren't given to you by a doctor. And then it really moves into like substance misuse. And that's where you have the very age-appropriate conversations of vaping and alcohol, and then substances, of course, that are illicit with them. And so that's really going to meet our K through 3 component this upcoming school year, and we're really excited to begin implementing it. Aside from that, we meet the school's needs of where they're at. So we are very familiar with our family resource officers. So they have no issue calling us and telling us that they may be having a specific issue within their school. They may call and say, hey, our prom is coming up. Will you please come and have a conversation with our students about prom safety and what that could look like for them? And we're very familiar with these communities. As Tom said, we have a lot of grassroots people, and we have individuals that are in recovery that are speaking to these children, as well as individuals whose family members were in active addiction at some point, but maybe they didn't go along that path. So they're able to speak about choosing a different path as well. Our other program that is really our spearhead, and you'll see a lot about, is our On the Move program. And it is an interactive classroom trailer that goes from school to school, and it serves 7th and 10th grade students. And we target those grades so we can visit them again after middle school into the 10th grade system. And so what that looks like is we have the mobile classroom, which is really amazing. If you get the opportunity to look at our website, you can see that. And one of our staff members goes and does a conversation with them about the pathways of addiction. And so we start with nicotine and we go all the way to now fentanyl and everywhere in between and what that looks like. While about 30 students are on our trailer inside the gymnasium or wherever they place us, we are doing an interactive part of the presentation with them where they get to drive Sydneys with impairment goggles, and we teach them about the legal ramifications of driving under the influence and what that could look like for their future careers and their lives. And really, we drive home the message that if you're driving under the influence, eventually it's going to end in one of two ways, either with your mugshot or with an obituary. And these students are very familiar. You know, we're bringing these conversations to them because it's something they're familiar with at home. They're seeing this every day, and we're able to have them be in a place where it's a normal, open conversation to talk about it instead of hiding in shame, really, which is what a lot of like my classmates and myself did in the past. But now it's an open, honest conversation, and we're giving them a platform to do that. Typically, when we do the On the Move programming or the vaping programming or even our internet safety programming, we talk ahead of time with principals and resource officers and ask to be able to give them a day pass to turn in their vapes without receiving any discipline actions. And you would be surprised the number of students that come up to the prevention staff after they share their stories and their testimonies, and then will turn in their vape or ask how to get off the pathway of addiction, or if it's too late for them to get off the pathway of addiction. And it's just really been groundbreaking to see how the students have been responsive, especially in a day and age where they have access to all the wrong information at their hand because of their phone. We want to try to intercede and give them all the correct information. And in conjunction with that, we also want to talk to their parents. And so part of our prevention programming is parent and grandparent or whatever trusted adult may be raising a student, to get to speak with them and give them the same information so we're all on the same page. We use our programs like Shoot Hoops, Not Drugs to do that. If you bring your student, we have a parent program, and we kind of herd you into a library or wherever, and we talk to them about this year again vaping and the dangers of that, because we're all dealing with the issue of fentanyl, and that wasn't something that occurred in the past. And so really it's just a full family prevention method that we try to apply to all of our schools, and it has been so well received. We really got started thanks to OAG in September of last year. And from September to May, we were able to service over 18,000 students within the 5th Congressional District, but also a few counties outside of the district as well. And so we're just excited to continue into this school year. As Dale and Tom mentioned, we did receive another funding from opioid abatement and intend to expand by 10 counties. But we also will be adding prevention specialists or coordinators and coalition coordinators with that funding as well, because we need to meet the need of these students. And if you have anybody that, any school system that would need to request anti-vaping or internet safety, please have them reach out to Unite. While we technically serve certain counties, our prevention staff has no issue and wants to go to any other county that would request to have a presentation done in their school. And all of our prevention programming is done free of charge.
Okay, thank you, Courtney. Just got a message that we need to bring this, kind of summarize things, and we got another, you all have another meeting to start. We appreciate this opportunity, and there's so much more we would like to share. As I said in the email, I would be willing to come out maybe at a future meeting and answer any questions you might have, and maybe bring some of our staff members. So, thank you for this opportunity. We really hope that we can find a way to partner with Penny Ryle and make some noise in your area, because we're very passionate about sharing our programming there. So thank you so much.
Hey, Tom, this is Jason. I know you had spoke early on about the grant funding that you have received to sort of expand your programs across the state. What do you see as the timeline of that sort of taking place? And then my second question has to revolve around the opioid abatement funds. Are you all utilizing some of the county level, local level funds for your operations, or how does that work with your local county and city driven opioid abatement funding?
One thing that we're doing on that, we are using opioid abatement money to expand, and we took our On the Move program out into other counties outside the Fifth with funding that they provided. We also created some new programming that we're going to take outside the Fifth. And the new counties that we're intending to add with the second grant, which starts on October 1st, we're going to add 10 counties, not all at once, but over the next year. And one of the things we're going to ask them to do is invest some of their opioid abatement monies that they get in counties and cities to work with us with our voucher program, for example. We won't be able to provide them with all the funding we're doing with our 33 counties. But if a county such as Russell County is one we're looking at, and Garrett County, if they want to earmark some of their money to us and say, please use this amount of money to provide vouchers to programs in our county, we're going to do that. We can do that also with prevention funding and things of that nature. But we don't ever charge for our services. We've never charged anybody. We don't want to start. So we're going to provide these services the best we can. But the voucher program is one area where we would really need help, because there's such a large demand, and treatment costs so much. So that's what we're going to try to get them to contribute to our program.
All right. Well, thank you for joining with us today and sharing all about the good work of your organization. And we appreciate your willingness to follow up and continue that conversation with our counties at a later date. All right. Moving on to the next item of new business, the director's report.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief because I know we have a Lake Barkley Partnership meeting here in just a few minutes, but thank you, Tom, and your staff for joining us today, and to Judge McGee, thank you for connecting us with Operation Unite. I think it's just an opportunity for us to think as a region, maybe some different ideas that we could be looking at, an approach that we could be utilizing. And Tom, we may connect back with you in the very near future about being able to spend more time in the region and talk about your successes and maybe some things that we could do over here. So thanks again.
Thank you. We'll sign off now.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Martha Jane, Alex, I just want to say again about the local issues conference last week. I thought it was wonderful. Please pass along our thanks to the commissioner and to all the staff. I know he doesn't do much work probably putting it together, but the staff did a great job with that. Good sessions. If you weren't there, I think the most special part had to do with our region, but that was when of course Coach Pope spoke on the last day of the conference, which was wonderful in itself. If you weren't ready to run through a brick wall at the end of his discussion, I don't know what you were doing. But anyways, there was a nice reunion between Coach Pope and our very own mayor, Albert Jackson out of Earlington. And that was neat to see. Mayor Jackson actually played for the University of Georgia basketball. He graduated from Central High School there in Hopkins County and then went on to play for the University of Georgia. And that was Mark Pope's first assistant coaching job, was at University of Georgia. And you had to be there to see it. But Mayor Jackson stood up to ask a question and introduced himself, and you immediately Coach Pope just ran off the stage and embraced Mayor Jackson. It was just really neat to see. Like I said, if you weren't there, I'm probably not doing it any justice. But anyways, thank you for that conference. Good information as always. Just a quick update on our meeting schedule. We will be meeting here in September and October on our regular meeting dates. I know October falls on Columbus Day, I believe, but we will still, however, meet on that day. We will not meet in November because that does fall on Veterans Day. So here in September and October, but not, can't believe we're already talking about September and October, but not in November. Now, there could be one thing that may impact that. We are getting ready to start on our phase 2 of our audio visual revamp of this room. It is our hope that we'll start on that phase 2 sometime in October, which means that could impact our meeting. If we do, worst case scenario, we would take that meeting virtually if we need to. So, but just stay tuned for that. Hopefully our next improvements will keep Melissa from having to run around the room with a microphone and things of that nature. Just make a better experience for everyone. So again, Lake Barkley Partnership will be meeting over in the executive conference room up in front of the building. Are there any questions for me before we adjourn? All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jason.
What's that?
Oh, I think you got
Oh, yeah. You know, it's just not fair. It's just not fair. You know, I thought Mike, our water and sewer guy, I thought Mike was tall, but Mike's not tall. He's in the short club with the rest of us. But that was a lot of fun.
We'll get you a box to stand
I
on
know
next
it. I
time.
need
Get it
it.
off at the knees. All right. Any other business to bring before the board? Hearing none, entertain a motion in a second to adjourn. Motion second, we stand adjourned.